here is the brain trust of American vaccine scientists sitting together, pondering the brilliant science that's been done to see if this vaccine is safe enough for people. They are on this thing, and they're thinking about it, and they're there for you, and look how thorough this discussion is.
Is there any comment on using this vaccine at the same time with other adjuvanted vaccines?
We have no data to make a recommendation one way or the other.
So just to sort of put this in context of other vaccines, whilst preclinical studies were not done using these vaccines simultaneously, our general approach to immunizations is that they can be given at the same time in different limbs.
Dr. Hunter?
Are multiple adjuvanted vaccines used in Europe or other markets?
Dr. Ward, do you want to comment?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, I think unless there's any further discussion, we will take a vote on this recommendation.
I want to remind everyone to please check your voting machine thing, and voting is open.
Thank you very much. So the voting is completed, and it is unanimous to support this recommendation. Thank you all.
There you have it. I mean, there it is. Somebody asks, have we tested them together? And they say, we have zero data on that, never been tested with other adjuvanted vaccines. Okay, can we vote? Unanimous. Doesn't matter who asked any of those important questions, they all got the exact answer they were looking for, which is, we have no effing idea. Perfect, that's all I need to know. Now I can move on. NBC was there, CBS, all the news stations run out to start telling you there's a great new vaccine on the market that you can now get that's going to protect you from hepatitis B. Right after they voted, right after everybody rushes out of the room to celebrate this brand new vaccine, here's the discussion that happened inside the room.
And does anybody around the table, we don't need to go around and verify our votes, but does anybody have any comments they wish to make about their vote?
So just a slight reservation. I think this is a huge advance and a step forward. I am concerned about that signal, that myocardial infarction signal. I am concerned about the use of this new adjuvant and certainly urge us to continue to look at the post-marketing data carefully.
Dr. Hunter?
Just a question about that. How soon would we be getting that post-marketing data update here?
There's two kinds of data. The vaccine safety data link data will require people to be using the vaccine to develop substantive database. Dr. Sun, do you want to comment on the post-marketing data that FDA is requiring?
I think for the myocardial infarction study, we're seeing that the date likely for completion is May 31, 2020. There will also be studies looking at autoimmune diseases as well as herpes zoster, and there will be a pregnancy registry as well. So that's all included in the post-marketing surveillance.
Thank you.
Don't you kind of wish they had a discussion before they voted? I mean, don't you think that would have been like a good thing? You know, you have an issue. I have a slight issue. I mean, I think we're moving steps forward, and this is brilliant. I'm really happy to be here and be a part of it. But I have a little concern over the myocardial infarction. You know what that means, folks? Heart attacks. He's a little concerned about the fact that there were heart attacks in the test group, and he really hopes that the surveillance after we put this out in public is well done and good, because after we're testing on you, we're going to see if you start dropping like flies, and hopefully somebody will have a computer program that'll pick that up. Oh, and by the way, just so you can all be at ease, we're going to give this to pregnant women, and we're going to have a separate little pregnant women registry to see if they die too, or if their babies die, but nobody could afford to test that ahead of time. We didn't want to charge the pharmaceutical industry that is just hanging in the death throes of barely surviving on the hundreds of billions of dollars they're making right now. We got to make sure that that money gets distributed to them instead of testing this product before you get it. This is how it works, folks. Originally, Denavax, can we bring up this slide? Hepatitis B vaccine works, but raises safety issues, says the FDA. This is what's interesting. Back in July 26, 2017, the FDA does not approve it because it causes what? Myocardial infarctions. It's causing heart attacks. There were deaths in this group. And then all of a sudden, okay, it's good now. Vaccine gets FDA nod on third try. Do you think that they changed the vaccine at all? Or do you think they just spent their time explaining away the problems they were having with the vaccine?
They had done a very small rat study, and they did a very small monkey study. And the rat study, they found that this adjuvant was toxic to the bone marrow and caused thrombocytopenia, which means it lowers the amount of platelets in your system, which means that you can bleed out. And they had liver congestion and chronic inflammation of the liver and cardiomyopathy, which is enlargement and swelling and adverse events happening to the heart. And that was in mice. And in monkeys, they showed increased clotting activation, which goes along with the pulmonary embolisms, the blood clots that went into the lungs. When you have aluminum or mercury in a vaccine, there are ways to get it out of your system. Now, you may never get 100% of it out, and the younger the child is that gets loaded up with mercury, the more that bio persists and retains in their system. But when you are turning on and manipulating toll-like receptors, we have no idea if this thing is ever going to get out of somebody's body. And what happens if it turns on every toll-like receptor 9 in the person's body? If one person comes down with cardiomyopathy from having a hepatitis B vaccine with this new adjuvant 1018 in it, think of how many years of treatment, how many drugs, how many hospitalizations, how many drugs for diuretics and hypertension and various different things that they need, and maybe even eventually dialysis when their cardiomyopathy turns into kidney disease. Vaccines cause injuries that then the drug companies have solutions for. Vaccination is a 200-year mistake that has led to multi-generational indoctrination that we're doing something good in the name of health. 50 or 100 years from now, social anthropologists are going to look back at this time in history and go, what were they thinking? That they were going to inject all of these toxic substances into a little baby, into their most precious thing, their child, and think that was okay. And not only was it okay, it was somehow going to keep them healthy and well.
We just heard Dr. Sherry Tenpenny say you would rather have mercury and aluminum in your body than this thing because at least you can get that out in some way. I can't believe I just heard that. This is the conclusion I've come to. They only really are excited about, experimenting with vaccines. And who wants to just experiment on a bunch of mice? That's no fun. Who wants to experiment on 10 monkeys? That's really expensive and not a whole lot of fun. And who only wants to experiment on, 20 or 100 people? When you could have millions of people, when the government just gives you access and all you have to do is sit on this panel and ask some important questions that you don't care what the answer is because you're going to vote yes anyway, so that millions of people get to be a part of your giant experiment. We've got a brand new adjuvant no one's ever tried in an immune system area we never even knew existed.